Hello class. I want to follow up our work session in class with this video, so this will help you kind of go back and reference when you want to um, try to build or make another type wall. So we'll do a series of these kind of little short videos kind of on different kind of difficult parts of the project. So today I wanted to kind of focus a little bit on some of the walls that are surrounding this particular stair. Specifically this wall that we started, this CP3, because as I dug in a little bit further, I want to kind of walk through the what you need to do to kind of go through the drawings to make sure that you've got it built the right way. So one of the things I'm going to do here just for help this process a little bit is I am going to change the kind of viewing to fine. Reason for that is I know that there was some question about how this kind of will present itself because it was just a bunch of hatch, but you can see here that the wall concrete masonry unit, the insulation on the inside with the sheetrock, and then of course the wrap with the cementitious board, and the fiberboard panel on the outside kind of wraps both edges of this wall. So as we add another wall to this, you'll see how that kind of comes together based on the parameters that we built in class. So what I'm going to do is go back up here to our architecture wall, and I am going to put this in. And actually I did go through the exercise, and one of the things I liked is I can use the kind of outside face, since I know that from the grid line to the outside face was 1'6". By doing that, I've kind of went back and I realized that if I pull, get this in here a little so you can see it, if I reference that grid line, it was a lot easier before. So there we go, 1'5", 1'6". Now I'm going to click on that. So what it's doing now is it's building the wall. I'm going to carry it all the way up here to this other one. And enter. And now it's attached this wall to that one. You see the insulation has turned a corner and the outside materials change a corner. I also need to make sure my dimensions are correct. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here and do a quick check. My wall looks like it's off the grid. As I click on this edge, I can dimension. So we knew it was 1'6", plus we also had a 2 1/8 inch material on the outside, so that dimension looks correct. So we're good there. So we're kind of equidistant off of these two grid lines, and so now we've got those two walls built that we need. So what I've done is actually gone back and looked at the plan. So we're going to be referencing sheet A 2.1, which in that drawing set is page 23. We're going to specifically look at this area. We want to start to understand exactly how these walls are put together. So the next one, we kind of get a little closer and we realize there's this kind of structural wall. We have the, we've built the kind of insulation on the inside of these two and the outside cladding, realizing that this is a structural wall that has another wall attached to it. And then we also have another structural wall here with another framing wall type around it. So what we're going to want to do is build this wall and add this one to the outside, build this wall and add it to the outside. So we need to understand what is this wall made of. And so we're going to go in and look specifically at that. So what we need to do is to go back and look at the detail that was on sheet 8.1, and this is a detail, so there's a whole series of kind of exterior details associated with that, and you will find this stuff on sheet number 70 in that package. If we look at that, go back to the structural plan, and of course sheet, which is structural S202, this is the first floor plan, and it starts to lay out where columns and walls and structural walls are. So we want to specifically look at this. So if we go up here, we realize that our structural wall 2 and 2, which is the core of that wall we just built, which we assumed was an 8-inch concrete masonry unit. We also see that that same wall is over here. And then of course we have a SW5. And so we need to know what an SW2 and an SW5. So we're going to go back to sheet S401 in the structural set, because on here we have a wall inventory of, or a schedule of the structural walls, and so this will start to tell us what those different materials are. So if we click in a little closer, we know that the SW2 is actually a 12-inch concrete, not an 8-inch concrete block. What we're going to see is that there's actually 8-inch concrete masonry units and 12-inch concrete masonry units used on those projects, but those are actually just called W. So when we see a W reference for a structural wall, we know that's masonry, and if we know that it's an SW, we know it's going to be concrete. So here we need to go back, and it looks like we need to modify that wall. So we're going to go back to the drawing, and we're going to modify these two walls so that we can start to get those to be the correct dimensions, and then we're going to add these two structural walls. So here we go. We've got the wall that we built, but now we know that this is a concrete masonry unit. So I'm going to click on this wall. I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to say Edit Type. I'm going to duplicate. Now, one of the things I'm going to do with this duplication is I'm going to call it CP-3, and I'm going to put SW2 with it, so that we know that this has the structural wall 2 as part of its construction. I'm going to go back in here, and I'm going to look at the structure and say, right now we've got concrete masonry unit, a kind of an 8-inch block. So we're going to modify this to a 12-inch wall. So we're going to make that 0, 1, and then we're going to change the material from concrete masonry so it doesn't read like that. We're going to change it to concrete cast in place. Say OK. Now we've got the parameters changed for that, and we say OK. And OK, and now our wall has changed. Now one of the things we're going to do is a real quick check, because we know that that distance to the outside face does not want to move. So we'll click this a few times, and that still hasn't moved. So the wall has gotten thicker and closer to the inside face. So that's great. So if we know where that needs to be, whether it's the outside face of the structural wall or the final wall cladding, if we make any changes, it will stay in position with the grid. So now we still have this one as the basic wall CP3, so we're going to go in and we're going to change that one also. So now these two walls are built the way the drawings are telling us to. So now we're ready to start to put this wall in, which we know was an SW5, which is 16 inches. And we need to bring this wall down, which is an SW2, which is a 12-inch wall. So we're going to go back and get those set up. So one of the things we're going to do is, now that we've got this modified and correct, we're going to build this wall and this wall. So one of the things I'm going to do is I know this is actually a 16-inch concrete wall, which is a SW5. So if we go up here to wall, I have actually taken a liberty. What I did is I had actually went down here and I made a couple concrete walls. What I started with is there is a concrete foundation wall. Where is that? There we go, retaining wall. So it's a retaining 12-inch concrete retaining wall. So what I ended up doing is I clicked on that. I said Edit Type. I said Duplicate. And I turned that to a 16-inch wall. And what I called it, 16-inch concrete, I called it an SW5 because that's its reference in the drawing set. And so now it's telling me it's already used. So And the next thing that I did is I've also went in here and I modified. I turned this from a 12-inch wall to a 16 by adding 4 inches to it. So I'm going to cancel here because I don't want to change my existing, and I'll cancel this, and I'm going to go here and find my 16-inch wall. Must be up to the top. There we are. Now we know that that one is actually going to be located on the center line. So one of the things I want to do is sometimes make sure that this is showing up at height. Sometimes I've seen this hit on depth, and then all of a sudden what it does is it basically draws your wall on the wrong floor. So make sure this is up here and saying height. And it's saying unconnected. We're going to say we want to make sure this is connecting to level 2. In this case, we're going to use center line. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to click on the center of that, bring it over here, and that will have built my concrete wall for this side. Now one of the things you'll notice that as this came across is intersection, so it doesn't wrap, so it stops, and then also the outside cladding also stops. So we'll be able to, as we intersect, then add other walls here, and that shouldn't have any impact on the wall that we've built already. Now the next wall we need to do is we need to bring the SW2 structural wall down here, so we need to build that wall, and that one will be the next one. And then this one's got a kind of a unique condition because on the lower level it is a 16-inch wall, so it's centered, it comes all the way down, but on this level it's actually only 12 inches wide. So what they've done is it'll be 8 inches on this side and 4 inches on this side so that it lines up, because as we start to look through here, and we'll add this later, there's a precast floor that'll come over and sit on that 4-inch shelf that's coming along here. So we need to make sure we build this correctly, so when we draw that later, that will all be correct. So I'm going to come up here and get us ready. So one of the things, I'm going to go up here. So we just did the SW5. Now I've changed this real quickly to, instead of being the 16-inch concrete, I put the SW5 in front, so that way I can have all of my structural walls that are just structural together. So I have 5, I have a 6, a 7, a 10, which is a 12-inch masonry, and these were for walls that we'll talk about in class next, which are masonry walls and things that are building the lower level. And then what I did is I also built an SW2, which is the concrete wall, which is kind of the core of what these two walls have. But this one, of course, does not have any, doesn't have the materials on the outside. So here I am going to, we have wall center line and we have core center line. I'm going to use core center line because I want to make sure that, actually I probably want to use core face interior, because I know in this particular wall that never changes. It's always in the same location, but the outside wall starts out at 16 inches, goes to 12, and then eventually becomes an 8-inch wall. So we're going to use, in the placement of this wall, the core interior. Now one of the things you remember we talked about as we place things, when you're placing a wall, it's kind of clockwise. That's how, if you install a wall, then you know that the outside face will be the exterior. If you go the other direction, they'll flip, but you can easily fix that. I'll show you here. If you do go the wrong direction, not a big deal. Just have to go up here. You see these little buttons. You just flip the wall. So basically that reference changes. So you can see here. Now the material, of course, is on the outside. So that's one thing you have to watch out for. So you have to want to make sure that you're installing it so that the exterior is on the outside and always clockwise. So anyway, so in this particular case, we're going to go back to the wall. Got the structural wall here. We're going to place it by the core interior, and we know